We are the promised people. We are the people who were promised for this promised land. Everybody worldwide. We are the promised people. We are the people. Yes, so welcome to the promised land.
And I'll let you take the lead today.
Well, that's sweet of you, Näthan.
I'm a sweet guy.
Well, again, this is really a heart-to-heart you and I are having to reflect deeply on the most important issues facing our human family across the planet. And although we're situated, we keep repeating, in the USA, we're not USA-centric, we're more global-centered, the whole human family, because breaking the trance, the code that we haven't faced, the software of the mind that allows us to have reason and meaning and language and culture and worlds and science and discipline, arts, and all of the beautiful things about humans and all the good and evil, everything as we have in the human family across the planet, we haven't really faced, despite the great call of our first philosophers, as we said, of trying to get to the ground floor of being, of reality, deeper than where we've been, because this seems to be inherently fragmented, polarizing, not coherent, no possibility of finding the unifying force and common ground across a widespread, diverse narratives and worlds and cultures and religions and scriptures and disciplines and arts, and all that fragmentation and silos here in the software, and we have not been able to face it. And yet all of the great scriptures and first teachers breaking through in whatever way we can beyond this software into the deeper, from the language that represents and talks about the world, which is great, that version of language, but to one when you're in the zone. That's a deeper language that we've not yet civilized and gained the full literacy, even though our great teachers and scriptures were trying to speak from this deeper space without knowing that we're crossing into a deeper software. So where we are in this is the number 8th episode, and you and I are in our conversation now, continuing in the deepest heart-to-heart with a great passion that across the planet, the human family is in deep existential jeopardy that has been unfolding and building almost like a virus for millennia. And things are peaking in our global space, in our global world. It's going to burst here. It can't sustain it. This software can't handle the open range of free human beings. And we're trying to call that out, standing on the shoulders of the great scriptures and teachers. And one of the things now that I'd like to throw at you and see how you make of it, because you and I have discussed this in our thousands of conversations over the last 10 years, almost daily research in the lab to cultivate this missing language of logos, the source, the software, the code here, the software and the sourceware. Between the two languages, language here and language there. And we see that this is fragmented inherently, and yet humans are still, by default, in this space, despite the genius, and artistry, and nobility, and moral heroism of men and women through the ages that we've had here. Brilliant, but something is stalled. So I think in this 8th episode, looking back on the recent ones, that this is where the people meet. We the people are no. We can't be we. This is scattered. We're in silos. We're in Lego separateness because of this software, and we can't see it. The profound, wide-ranging human dysfunctions and pathologies, existential. This is being, the language of being in this space, and we can't see it and diagnose it within it. We can't solve our political meltdown within it. We can't solve our personal inner breakdown as we look for wholeness and well-being within it. And we have to see it, and that's breaking the trance. And until we break the trance, the human family across the planet, finally, and migrate and cross into the deeper, unified, holistic, organic space, where sacred space in surfing the field of being, of reality, our suffering is going to continue. And we can't afford to wait another 100 years. We feel the urgency now, you and I, and people across the planet. And in the USA, for example, recently, things have gone to a whole other level of a feeling of emergent crisis, something is broken that we thought we had, and it's clear we don't have it in the same way with recent developments. So I want to just throw the ball at you and see how you can help as a healer, as a yogi, as a source artist, and the yoga teacher and the first philosopher, as a colleague. How do we deal with the question that all of these diverse, alternative, competing polar narratives are still in the same boat, in the same code. How do we see? How do we get? Because if people don't see this and think, oh, if I have theism, and you're atheism, then you're out there. No, theism and atheism are within the same place. Rationalism and empiricism is polarized are same place. Big Bang, Genesis, same place. Pro-choice, plural, same place. Same place meaning the same software. We're lodged. So the software is a binary. It's either or. It's one or many. It's unum or pluribus. It's universal or particular. It's a priori, a posteriori, on and on. The two different polars that we think, they share the same software. And people need to see that with great urgencies if we're going to break the trance and cross into the deeper space. So I'm throwing the baton to you now. Let's have a heart-to-heart on that.
Okay. Yeah, I'll take a stab at it. Again, as you and I have talked a lot, sometimes I think the terminology you use, as a philosopher might be hard for people to connect with a little bit. And some of these lofty terms and the way that you described that, I guess I want to kind of bring it down to earth a little bit.
Please.
Everyday people who aren't thinking about being in the field of being or
the logos,
words like a posteriori and a priori and things, all these philosophical terms. I want to just make it really, really easy to grasp. We're suffering. Life is really, really hard right now for a lot of people for a lot of different reasons. There's a lot of fear in the field, and there's a lot of anger, and there's a lot of division and polarity going on. And each side thinks that they're on the right side of history. And I'm not talking just about politics, but it's just such a ripe example that everybody's exposed to right now, not just in America, but on the global stage in terms of the fight for democracies, the free world, as they call it collectively, versus authoritarianisms. Those two things, as drastically different as they are, could they be in the same boat? Not that they're the same or equal, or that it's there's not a right side and a wrong side, but the question is, when we're talking about things like reaching well-being, like on a personal level or on a global level, could we be going about it all wrong by realizing that when we're pitting ourselves against the bad guys, and everyone always thinks the other one's the bad guy and that they're the good guys, right? Can we take a moment to step back? This is kind of what we've been talking about a lot lately, my dad and I, in recent conversations. They're in the same boat. You take a Democrat and Republican as vastly different and opposing, or you can say liberal and conservative. You brought in things like pro-life and pro-choice. All of these different capitalism versus communism, these things that we just
racism, anti-racism, go on and on.
On and on and on. And what we want to bring to the table and start to massage here in a way that you guys out there can get without it being lofty or overly philosophical, but at the same time, it's a deep science. We're not going to get any better. We're not going to overcome this division, the civil war and the culture and the civil war within ourselves, until we realize that these opposites are actually married, right? Yeah. So if we don't see that, then what we end up doing is just pushing against each other and ourselves and deepening the chasm, ironically, that we oftentimes arrogantly and self-righteously try to overcome the other side, and overcome the evil in the world and the bad in the world. But we're doing this. We're pressing in. It's that principle of deepening the division without, if you don't see it. And that's, again, breaking the trance means to step out of that battle within the box, the culture wars within the box.
That's right.
And to step into the as we have here on the hologram, the double bracket space, so we can understand, wow, I just thought there was a right side and a wrong side. but while they're together, they're married. Wow, this changes everything, right? Because the things that we do want to improve on in culture, on so many levels, we can transcend the warring ideologies all around us, but not if we stay within the malware, the software that we keep pointing out here.
Thank you, Näthan, because I think bringing it to earth, this is where I think in our partnership and our dialogue, my whole life, 60 years, trying to understand, standing on the shoulders of a great teachers, first responders, scriptures, first philosophies, wisdom, enlightenment, and seeing patterns, deep patterns of attempting to get to whatever name you give for the field of being, reality. You can call it the light of reason, irrational space, many different ways of putting it. But also seeing that the software of our language, which is talking about the world, here are the individual or the culture or the tribe or the people sharing within a technology and a certain lens. I didn't put a lens in there, but if you change your lens, you change your story. This is where all the narratives and stories, this is where the world appears. Our inner world appears here, and our external world appears here. And it is a binary space. This is a binary sourceware. It means whatever, A or not A, are still within the A. May I give a reason? I want to hold your lead in being earthy so that everyday folk with their natural intelligence, our natural intelligence, can understand. Mm-hmm. Because this is so important to see. That the culture we're in is in a software, a matrix, a grammar, a logic, a mind operating process, many names for this. And it allows us, it's great, it allows us to have a narrative, to have a world, to have meaning, to have reason, to have talk about a world, to have events and things appear, and to have life and politics and relationships and all of that going on in this narrative space. We live in this narrative space, but it's all being held. And we can't have this derivative. This is a derivative software from the primary software, sourceware. Right? But we haven't been sensitive enough to that, because when you hear our wisdom teachers in our scriptures, which are urging us to migrate to the space of presence, of mindfulness, of mindful humans, logos kids, logosphere, from the Greek word logos meaning the light of reason, and being, and the original word, the original language, that's when we find our original self. But we're here, and it's this form of language and intelligence and public space and politics and human life and personal life and psychological life all going on here is a binary software that everything to get to be me is not me. If I'm going to claim I as a separate independent being, right, there's going to be what is not me. So it already has started. Whatever lens whatever story I buy, there is a not I. There's a difference between I and what is not I. So there's a line here. And the I and the not I. So the subject who's thinking and the object. And how do you deal with the object? Well, you could break it down. It's the S or P. It is either S is or isn't P. There's a plus minus. It keeps going plus minus. I can say yes or no to a thought, to a narrative such as the gospel. Jesus is my Lord. Yes. I can use my will to say yes to Jesus, yes to God, yes to Moses, yes to Allah, yes to yoga, whatever, yes to science. Whatever lens I use or my community of users, there's the thinkers and what we think about, the narratives here, but it's a binary. So just as if you have nothing, when you have, say, moving, something that is moving plus and unmoving minus are still moving. It's a deeper connection. That's how polars are still united in a deeper field. This is the deeper field, and you can have polar narratives. You could have science versus religion, still in the same shared boat. You can have, what the world is from spirit. No, the world is from matter. Materialism, same boat. Even though the opposition between the two across this polar space, which is a binary, and so the binary is the software we're using. And the binary is a bindery. It binds us if we can't free ourselves from it. But we can't see it. We see it here, but we can't step back and see here. So when we're in this form of mind operating under the sway of this software, we're saying, you've got to see this and break the strands. Why? Because it's keeping us in a deeply chronic, polar, fragmented, Lego pieces, because I'm a Lego unit. Have my own being. And the great teachers know, no, you can't be apart from being. So there's a version of you that's deeper than you think. This is one form of thinking, but this thinking under the software and laboring under it is in the binary. The binary is a binary. So when you think you have racism or anti-racism, well, same boat. So how do you fight racism? Well, maybe racism is one of the symptoms from the binary shredder that objectifies the other, self and other. And it's not the love space where you join beyond the binary into the unum, the unified reality. Logos is the unum, the more perfect union. It's not here. This is the divisive. This is a divisive software. It polarizes. That's the power we've got. Is there isn't, I or not I, A or not A. And so all of our narratives, and it's not just polars, all of them, all of the different worldviews and narratives that are competing for this space, this information space, the narrative that shapes what's real and what's true. Reality and truth is a narrative that wins. Is it the Gospels? Is it God-like? Or is it matter? Is it Big Bang? Is it Genesis? Which story? But they're in the same boat. Until we see that, and we have to see the software, that's breaking the trance. When we see this and say, step back, and the teachers who teach meditative thinking, not just form of thinking, not binary thinking, dualism, but trans-dualism, to the unified field of being. Reality is not in silo pieces. You can't silo it. Everything here is siloed. So it's not just oppositional A or not A. It's all of the multiple things in silos exclude each other in the binary, and we're bound by the binary, and we're not free agents. This is huge now, what we're trying to bring out to the people. But this has been so hard to see. For millennia, our great teachers are trying to find a way without the markers to say, here, folks, you're in the derivative binary code here, and it works, and it gives us a lot of information. It's great. We need it. We survive from that. That's good. We have arts and sciences and productivity and human relations. I and the other. I and the other. Subject and the other. The other here is objectified. But that can lead to profound human fragmentation disorders and pathologies if you objectify yourself or the other. And the great moral teacher says, don't treat a person as an object. Persons are here. We brought this out in the last 7 source casts from here. So I just want to bring this out. If there's a way now, in your attempt to bring it to an earthy level, where everyday folks say, oh, excuse me, I see that opposites can be in the same place. That we can have opposites in a binary, P or not P, but they're P. This or not this, it's still same code. So whatever the oppositions are, right? And there's a different kind of opposition it's this or that. So in this case of Christianity, Jesus, the Logos, speaking this language, I am the way. Truth is over here. This is the way. Truth is over here. Love one another. That kind of talk. This is the love zone. Why? Because being is harmony. It's connection. It's unum pluribus. It's united. Right? Come, leave this and come here. Leave divisiveness and fragmentation because it's not sustainable. This software cannot sustain itself because it's an artificial derivative language that couldn't work without the unified force holding it. This couldn't work. The derivative can't work without the primary. So how do we get to the primary language? Well, we've got to see that if we're trying to stand opposed, if you say democracy and anti-democracy, same boat. You just said it. That's stunning. So small d democracy and the opposite, autocracy or tyranny or whatever one you call it. Wow, get away from me. No, we're married. Opposites, the binary, it's almost you can't get divorced. You can't get divorced here. Because if you step away, you're still in the binary. So even when you're divorced, you're still in a way bound. And if this is here, it's because if our minds, our will, our freedom here is bound here by the binder in this space, and we're locked in here, and we don't know our way out. That's what Socrates is. You're in the cave. You're not in the light of Logos. And the different words that we have across the planet. This is sin. This is samsara. This what? What does it mean? If we didn't have sin language, this hologram will say, well, if you're In this software, you're cut off from a deeper flow.
May I?
Yes, please help. I'm trying to.
No, I want to make use of the time we got, and it's flying fast, and I think you've been saying so much, and it's, I get what you're saying. I'm just wondering if anyone is getting it.
Help us now. Help.
Okay, just because I mean, you're moving very fast, and
I know.
bringing in a lot of big ideas, and I don't I don't know. I feel like we need to start a little bit with just the visceral, on that level, so people can connect with what they're struggling with and what they're afraid of, what they're facing in the world.
Good. Help us now. Help us. Good.
Well, yeah. Okay. I mean, we've been talking about the what's going on in the world. That's a big thing right now. People are afraid about what's going on in the takeover of authoritarian regimes and the decline of democracy, which is freedoms like freedom of speech and freedom to be. But even that is really lofty for some people. They're in their lives, right? And they're trying to make ends meet, and they're they're voting on that level. They're thinking that they're people's lives. Okay, I think people know that obviously there's a big world out there and it matters, but I think a lot of people are not even realizing, that how much it matters for them in their lives. But they do experience depression, anxiety, breakdown in their relationships, unhappiness in their relationships, a sense of not being fulfilled in their lives. And people are trying. I think one of the words I want to bring in here is activism. Activism as a blanket term for everything that people try to do to get better, everything that we want to do to get better. And obviously, we know we have elected officials who are making policies and all this kind of stuff, and we have to vote, and but even just close to home, right there in your relationship with your significant other, you could probably think of countless things that are polarized, and issues that lead to breakdowns, misunderstandings, communication breakdowns, and all of this. And where does it go? I mean, you can go to relationship therapy, but if you're not getting out of the software that objectifies the other, as you're pointing out, if you don't realize that your mindset, that you have a lens, and that lens is comprised of a belief system, like what you believe and how you were raised and what your strong convictions are. And if you don't realize that those convictions are kind of part of a software, or part of a mindset that's pitting you against the other, so you're the person that could be the love of your life can still be objectified
as an other, yes.
So I guess what I'm trying to do is I'm not negating what you're saying. I'm just trying to make it really, really like basic in terms of this is about our happiness. This is about our well-being. This is about being able to individually and collectively rise to higher ground and to a world that really isn't scary to be in, and we're not on the brink of war all the time, or in war all the time, but we're not seeing that our wars are being generated by the same, no matter which side you're on. And I'm not saying there isn't a better side, like obviously eradicating what am I trying to say? In World War II, just the genocide that was going on, the side that was coming in to stop that was obviously better, right? That's not the point. What we're trying to say is that if we're really we keep on cycling around to it. We keep on finding ourselves in the same place again and again and again. There's a certain insanity, like a glaring insanity, to our human discourse, obviously. And then we keep on repeating the same things over and over and over and over. Why? What's the science behind that? Whether it's in your relationships close to home, whether it's within yourself, or whether it's on the larger scale, we're in a pattern. It's a pattern of suffering. We keep on doing the same thing over and over and over. Why is that happening? Well, because of what we're pointing out here in terms of the opposing sides. So I guess I'm trying to take what you're saying, Dad, which is like the pure distilled science, which I think by itself might make a lot of people go cross-eyed when they hear enough
I know it does not.
letters and pluses and minuses and things you up there, the S and the P. People don't know what that is.
I know, and I feel in the bind. That's why I really need you so much.
Yeah,
To really help, be that bridge to reach the everyday person, because it is vital. When I'm with my students for a whole semester,
yeah,
teaching for 57 years, and I can looking at the text and reading the text or speaking the deeper language and dealing with this intercode, inter-software shift, and all the turbulence and confusion and chaos when you don't have the markers to even know where you are. And all you have is what you default into, which is the language we're comfortable with, and we can translate everything here, right? The students begin to go through, whoa, I never saw this. I didn't know that.
yeah.
But it's not
Just to let everyone know, I've been taking your classes, my dad's classes, for 6 years straight now. I go to every single class. I get super bummed if I miss them, because to me it's like the most important and empowering thing that you can possibly learn. So I want to be clear, like, I see what you're doing here on your pad is actually the most simple and the most simplifying of this shit show that we're all living in. So it's like, I guess what I'm trying to do is help people understand that why they need to get this, why they need to understand the deeper science of it, and that this isn't a matter of our opinion. This isn't our ideology. This is the science of getting out of ideology. That's the whole point of the double bracket space and pointing out the single bracket space. That's the ideology space. And you have good ideologies and bad ideologies. Okay.
What is an ideology? What is an ideology?
Well, number of ways you can say it, but a belief system. It's a system of belief about what is real, what is the world, what's true, what's false.
It's a narrative of reality, an experience, a life that you subscribe to, and you say yes or no. There's a binary. I can say, and my tribe, my homies, join me, and we breathe this together. We conspire to breathe in a shared story, and the story within this space, within the binary, will have opposing multiple. And in our stories in a silo, and there are other stories. I could be a community of scientists, right, buying into a scientific narrative, and rather than a religious narrative, for example, right? Just to give that example. Or I can subscribe to theism, God is real, God, or atheism, no, it's not, right? And have a different community of believers. I love what you're doing now, because what you did beautifully was take the hologram, which is like, if this is the distillation of the journey of our human family, of the greatest geniuses and first responders, men and women of the ages, to really just make it in a simplified visual, that there's a derivative software, and it's making us sick, it fragments us, and you were just pointing it out in the nitty-gritty. If people here are subscribing to under the sway of this software that we don't know, and it fragments and polarizes, and I earn my own separateness and my own unit and my own identity, and I got me, and everything else is other, and you don't realize you cut yourself off from your primary self, then there's going to be a deep disconnect between you and you. It's not just me and the other, and the significant other. I am my significant other. My deeper self is being held captive in the space, and to flourish is to break the trance and enter into, all the great realize your primary self. Leave the cave and discover who you are. That point. So in this language and this mind processing, which has binary and therefore binary within the sword, I can't be free. This is huge, and I feel it. Something is missing. I want my well-being. I want my life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. And I'm pursuing it here. It's not working. I got a lot of money. I got retired. My kids went to college. My lover, all of us going on here. My politics is falling apart in my environment. Things are fragmented and so, but I'm suffering because it's disconnect. in the space. And what you're doing beautifully is saying, look, folks, if you're interested, self-interest, I want to feel good. I want to be. I want to be free. I want to be free range. I don't want to be stuck and caught in my. I don't want my life to be bound. Being a bound person and in a fragmented space. If you're a parent and you have a child and you're objectifying your child, when your child is born as a sacred being, a logos kid, and we're training him or her in parenting as an object, and things are falling apart. And now we see in the computer cyber age, and our kids are on the cell phones and all that, they're being taken into deep holes and losing and having mind rot, brain rot. And that affects us, that affects us personally. So if our political life is in a civil war of the clash of ideologies, you call it ideology. What's an ideology? It's a narrative to which a community subscribes, and it gives us our meaning and our truth. And another community that has a polar opposite, a polarized other, it's going to have a different language. If I'm living in the space of science, that gives me one kind of facts. If I'm living in a biblical world, it gives me a different view of what's true. And so there is no one truth. There are many truths according to the narratives, the ideologies. That's what ideologies comes within the space. It's a system of ideas, a narrative I live by, that I say yes to. I use my will, I say yes to it. So I'm volunteering to be in that worldview, or multiple. I could be a religious person, that's one lens I have, or I could be a scientist, another lens. I could be a ecumenical citizen, keeping my religion out of it. I can have multiple lenses, but I'm still in silos. I'm in pieces. And if you're in pieces, you're suffering. So what you did beautifully is that if people can see that, wow, I know that things ain't right in my everyday life. Both my inner life, I'm in turmoil, I'm in anxiety. I don't feel safe. I don't feel whole. I'm suffering quietly, and I can't understand it. And I'm trying to get more stuff to fill the void I'm feeling.
That's the activism I'm talking about. I brought up the word activism. Yeah. Activism doesn't just talking about like activists in their projects out there in the culture, but any form of trying to get better is the way I'm using the word activism. And everybody's trying to get better within that space without breaking the trance. And so let's say you feel toxic. What are you going to do? You're going to detox to get better. That's a single bracket activism attempt at getting better, and it's well intentioned. But tox and detox are in the same boat. We keep on spinning our wheels in this space, and we're not getting better. You can probably come up with countless examples of this. And so what we really wanted to distill in this is, we were asking ourselves, has anybody said this? Is anybody bringing this out, this awareness? Because from what I'm witnessing, most people are sitting in their position and saying, I'm right, we're right, they're wrong, you're the bad ones, we're the good ones, right? Whatever side they're on. And we're really good at pointing at the problem out there and, in a sense, sort of arrogating this sense of righteousness and being on the right side of history. But you may be still in the same space that's generating exactly those symptoms that you detest. That's a big thing to say.
That's a big thing to say, that as different as being still, unmoving and moving is still a moving kind of thing. Being red or not red is still colored, right? Being active or not active is still action. Activism here is, by my will, I'm going to do something to solve this problem. I'm going to act. This is a different activism. Mm-hmm. This is where you're breaking the barrier. And
we call that activision.
Activision, because now you've got to have the vision of mindfulness. When you're acting mindfully, as Zen, in the zone, in the Christ, in the Buddha, in the yoga, in the Tao, right, when you're in that activism, not I'm doing it, but when you're zoning and surfing it, you're not the doer, you're not privileging and centering in yourself, therefore under the sway of the binary, and the binary code. So all of our what you're saying is huge now. We want a more perfect union. But that you're not going to get it here, because this is a disunion, this fragments. A more perfect union has to upgrade to unum pluribus. We have the e pluribus unum in the American lab. We're not, again, using that as an example. The e pluribus unum, out of the many one, that's the sourceware. You need this code. The dialogue, I and other, are in sacred. This is sacred land. This is the land of the free. This is where the will is not bind and bound, but the free range human open up to meet self and other, to meet nature, to meet the other, to multiplicity, plurality. Meeting here is a
which is happiness. I mean, we're talking about happiness. We're talking about love. We're talking about feeling good, for God's sake.
That's right.
Feeling being fulfilled and having meaning in life. You know.
That's right. That's right.
And being able to have relationships that are actually mutually giving and understanding and not codependent and
yes, that's right.
You know, we can't flourish in any way, shape, or form in that lower space. So we're talking about here is you know, in our ongoing theme of breaking the trance, is we have to step out of that if we're going to overcome all of these wars, internal and external. We can't overcome them. We can't find true happiness and peace, inner or outer, without this understanding. We just can't.
That's right, because the significant other is rendered insignificant, including me, when you're in the space, because you're an object. You're objectified by this software. But when you cross into the dialogos, into the logosphere, into the source space, the I and the other are boundaries. There's otherness, profound, there's infinite otherness. So everyone is unique and sacred in her space, in his space, and yet connected. That's a deeper ethics, that's a deeper politics. That's where we flourish in sacred space. So in a way, this derivative software that we're saying is a binary, and a binary, it holds us, and we can't get out of it. Even if we push the other away in divorce, even in divorce, death will not do you bad. Right? It's not just, you can be married or divorced, but you're still in the same place.
Yeah.
So your enemy is still in the same place with you.
Yes. And you know, another good example, just to be very, very basic, it's almost as basic as it gets. People say, don't think negative, think positive. That's a big one that people default to. Positive is better than negative, right? Of course. Yeah, of course. Be positive. That's way better than being negative. Who's going to argue with that, right? Just like being anti-racist is obviously better than being racist. But what we're saying is the activism that you're trying to, the changes you're trying to affect, the results you're trying to get, can't be reached in that space when you're in the
That's right. That's right.
When you're married.
This is activism. This is the two kinds of actions, right? Actions here that are bound, and actions here that are liberating. And what's this? How do you do that kind of Zen? How do you get in the zone, right? You've got to step back. You've got to let it go. You've got to somehow break this barrier and cross into the flow. And now you're in the Zen, now you're flourishing, human relations.
And what we're saying is activision, seeing it, is breaking the barrier.
That's right. That's right. That's exactly
to see this, to see it is to be it.
That's right. And that's what Zen, when you go into the zone, we have to learn to be zoners. That activism is powerful. It means letting this go, not being held in the boundary as a bound being. Culture here is bound. So if in
that really is it's a prison. It's a kind of prison.
That's right. We're in a prison. We're colonized. If your mind operating process that makes the world and makes this whole scene, has got you captive, your will is captive, your freedom is captive. You're operating under the sway, you're colonized by this.
Right.
So whatever your culture, if you want to be the land of the free, you're not going to find it here in the bound space.
Exactly.
You've got to have the courage to step back and listen to the wisdom of the great teachers, right? Not inside us, but see, wow, the infinite field is infinitely unum. It's one reality. Cannot be fragmented. It's the unified field. This is the disunified, divisive space, and you can't find a more perfect union here. You're going to be in perpetual civil war, a clash of ideologies and worlds and stories, and the duking it out for the dominant narrative, right? Whatever means, but you're still in the same boat. And this boat ain't gonna, it cannot float. It can't. This boat is ever afloat.
Yeah, it's taking on that boat's taking on a lot of water right now, and there's no amount of single bracket activism. It's like it would be like saying being on the Titanic and trying to stop it from sinking by using buckets to get the water out of there. It's just not working. Our activism in this space, again, on all levels, personal to global, it's not working. And I think somebody needs to say that. Somebody needs to point out, hey, it's not putting down our intentions to get better. The activism that we're doing is noble. For example, climate activists. I'm so grateful for climate activists who are making the putting forth the effort to prevent the warming from getting to that extremely severe place where it's just not sustainable anymore. Of course, that's great. But what I'm saying is that if it's within that single bracket space, within that objectified space, our solutions can only go so far without being part of the problem in a way.
That's well said. That's same, right.
And think about it, you get like a climate activist. Oh, there was a day I could never have imagined that there would be like anti-climate activists, like people who are actually like mad at people for wanting to make the climate better, It's so like I could never have imagined. But that's exactly how it goes. You're always going to get the opposing sides, and this is the science that we're pointing out here. There's a science behind it. Are those our only options? That means, then forget activism. I'm just going to throw my hands up. No, what we're saying is activision first.
That's right.
Get to the source of what's generated, because in a way, what we're saying, and I realize we're at the 40-minute mark here, but the way what we're saying is that this single bracket code, the objectifying code, that's the cause of all of it. That's the cause of the war. That's the cause of depression. That's the cause of
the violence to nature,
violence to nature, pollution, you name it. All forms of violence and degradation are being generated at the deepest level from this. And you can be a good person, but you're still under the sway of that binary logic.
Yes.
And we're saying, in fact, that is exactly what's going on. And so imagine where humans can go now. If we were to get this, this awareness was to sweep the globe, and everybody in their own way could kind of understand this. It's like we've been all focused on this plane, on the lateral shift, paradigm shifts within the box. But we're talking about this. It's more like vertical in a way. It's like we got to go up. We keep on doing this lateral back and forth, and we're not.
It's a maturation of the human. It's a maturation of a rational part. Reason here is defunct and obsolete in that form, cut off from the source. The deeper rationality, the logosphere,
sanity.
The light of reason. Sanity is being in touch with what's real, with reality. Mm-hmm. Unsanity, pre-sanity, is when you're cut off from it. Mm-hmm. And if you're cut off from it, then you're going to be cut off from the resource of unified connectivity and flow and love and sacred life and fulfillment and well-being. You're going to be shredded. You're going to be in pieces. Your interpersonal life, your interhuman life, within your family, and in the political and the workspace, and in the discourse of politics, everything across the world, across the religions, they're going to be deep silo, fragmentation, and the failure of dialogue and meeting. It's I-it, monologue, or I-thou, dialogos, dialogue. Mm-hmm. And you said science several times now. That's huge. We cannot find the foundation and ground of science and knowledge and truth in this space. Mm-hmm. Great teachers have known that. We've got to enter into the unified field, and that's where we have science, source science, a long quest to get to the foundation of all meaning and truth and language and word and reason, the light of reason. Here we're surfing the space of reason. Here we're cut off and using our wills, individually and collectively with our communities, to build a narrative in the binary, mm-hmm. where our wills are bound and not free. Mm-hmm. So this is huge. This is giving a map to everyday people. Remember this, folks. If anyone is listening on our conversation, just keep an eye on this. Let that work on you. Is there a deeper space, a deeper language that our great teachers were teaching from us and coaching us? Folks, you're suffering, you're broken, you're alienated, you're shredded, you're not whole, you can't be unified, you can't find a more perfect union. You're going to be in ideological battles and wars. And activism, as great as you people are, we people, you're not going to be able to get to the source of the fragmentation. So your counter activism and unactivism is mm-hmm. still activism here. It's got A or plus A minus A here, but it's not active. It's proactive. Why? Because you're not getting to the medical source from the science.
Yeah.
Maybe we can have another conversation about solar science now.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. We should wrap it, but that was
This went
that
so fast now. This went so fast.
yeah, it goes really, really fast for us. I hope it went fast for you guys too. We're gonna keep bringing this point through a lot, but we've referred to it as the same boat axiom or the same boat law, however you want to say it. So we invite you to think about that until our next one, because we'll be bringing that theme back quite a bit.
Right. Well, Näthan, thank you very much for holding space in this heart-to-heart, and I hope others can benefit from it.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
our intention is to reach out to all the people, everyone. We're not judging who is good or bad and good and evil, because there's a deeper way to be. Everyone is a Logos kid. We're viewing every human being, birthright, right? Of citizenship here by birthright as a Logos kid, right? We're sacred. We're all sacred, right? And if we're trapped here, we're not judging, because judging is what you do here. You judge one, but here you receive in the presence. This is being a mindful human life, presence. Sacred space, and everyone deserves and should, and that's our intention with these lab, these source conversations that you and I are having. We see how vital it is. The most important thing in the human family in our journey ever right now is to break the trance.
Yes, we're gonna keep doing it.
And again, I'd like to end almost by saying that anyone who's interested in learning more, because when I work with my students over week after week, 2 sessions a week, they begin to get this as we work. You can do this with Näthan. He offers coaching sessions, and he's a marvelous coach. So Näthan, I don't want to embarrass you by saying this in your presence, but there's a link. There's a link that you can get individual or small group coaching and education. We call it code education, not co-ed, but code-ed. Understanding the vital importance of which code are you in, this or that, and this is well-being. I'll sign off with that. No.
Okay, good. Thank you guys for listening. Much appreciated.
We are the people who were promised for this promised land. Everybody worldwide. We are the promised people. We are the people, yes, so welcome to the promised land.